Hey guys, I'm going to explain the 2014 number 3 part A only in this video, and then I'm going to do part B in the next video. So I'm assuming everyone read the question, and so I'm going to do some reminders, but I'm not going to show the entire question because we'll just waste time. So with this problem, you're going to take this array list of student names, and you're going to place them into this two-dimensional array. In order for us to have an array list be placed in an array, we've got to make sure that the types are exactly the same. And if you take a look at the question, they actually are the same. They are of type student, and that's why I put this in blue here. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, the question said, let's take these students and not only put them in a two-dimensional array, but place them going down. In other words, column by column. Okay, they want us to have this constructor initialize seats. So we got to make sure we do that and then rewrite these people going down. Now, so anytime we want to do columns, I'm not going to go in order, so I'm just going to leave some space, but anytime you want to put something in a two-dimensional array, you're going to need a double for loop. So the first for loop is the column, and the only reason why I'm doing columns is because they want us to make sure that the names go down in columns. So I call this COL, you could just call it C. Maybe we should just call it C just to save time in writing. Int C equals 0. C is going to be, now remember that they pass these guys in, so you want to make sure that you use those, but I'll give you another option. So we're going to do C is less than cols C++. Now, we don't need that semicolon at the end. Another thing that we can do instead of saying COLS is we can actually use seats and do seats 0.length. Now this will tell the computer that you're using the columns when you put the 0 there. The next thing we want to do is we want to put our second for loop, which is int rows. So int r equals 0, r is less than rows r++, or once again, if you wanted to, you can just call this guy, let's use a different color, we're going to call him seats.length. So we put those two in. Now, what we have to do is we have to get these guys here to be placed here. Now, we could, or typically we use just these for loops to help us because it goes 0, 1, 2. But what happens is the columns end up stopping, or I should say the rows in this case end up stopping. This breaks, and then it starts over back at 0 again when the columns increase. So anytime you're taking a single dimension array and you're putting it into a two-dimensional array, you're going to need a counter. And so let's do that. I'm going to have a counter, and I will use the green is fine. Int count equals 0. And I'm going to say, since I'm putting these guys into the seats, then what I want to do here is I need to get these people into and place them here. So right now, these guys are represented by student list. They're all in this array list called student list. So to get them, now remind yourselves that array lists have a lot of dot methods. So dot size, dot get, dot add, dot remove, and so on, dot set. So in this case, I'm just going to use dot get. Now, dot get has to take some sort of integer. So think about what you're getting. You're going to take Karen, who's at 0, and place her here. Liz, who's at 1, and place her here. When we get to Lester, he's at 3. And that is important. That's why we need the counter. So here and here, I'm going to put count. Sorry, there's no room. So this is going to keep going. But the problem is, and this is a big problem, if you notice, Danny stops right there, and we have 2 more places. And so it's gonna go and try to get 1 more person to put here, and then try to get a person to put here. Obviously, we'll have an error. It'll be an out of bounds error. So in other words, in our precondition, we knew that we had to, we had enough seats for everyone, but not everybody was gonna fill up the seats. So we have to stop this counter, otherwise it might try to grab somebody and put it here. So I need an if statement right before that says if, our count is less than student list dot size, then we can keep going. But if it's more, stop, because we're done with the students. And because we have a counter, we need the count plus plus, so that can go also afterwards at the very end. So the important part is this if statement right here, because in this case, you're going to have either enough students to fit this 2-dimensional array perfectly, or you're going to have less students. And so since the double for loops will keep going, it'll try to grab somebody else and to place into the double for loop, and it's going to give you an error. Now, there's something really, really important here. You can always check yourself. It says, let's just make sure we did everything. And I don't think we did, but let's just make sure that we did. Typically in the questions, they tell you what they want. It says, write the constructor for the seating chart class. The constructor initializes the seats instance variable to a 2-dimensional array with the given row and columns. And we never did that here. So we didn't initialize this guy right here. Now remember, he's part of the student, right? So we already did the first part of it. So here, you should put down seats, okay, because he's a 2-dimensional array. So he's going to equal to new, and the type is student. And then we need to always, when we have an array, we need a fixed size. So here we're going to put rows and columns. And that would create the 2-dimensional array to fill these students in. So I hope that makes sense.